How's it going, everybody? Been busy again, so not necessarily a series wrap up, more of a week wrap up. It's been a rough week. A Chicago White Sox series where you barely scrape out a series win. You get shut out one game against the one of the worst teams in the league. I think that's fair to say. And then losing 3 or 4 to Houston, a much more consequential series. There's playoff implications always against your division and other contenders in your league because obviously tiebreaker. There's no game 163 anymore, and so these games matter. Even though you went 6-4 on the road trip, could have very easily been 7-3. Could have very easily been 8-2. It is a story of offensive regression, and pitching has been much better. The first 5 games on this road trip, the pitching staff just allowed the 1 run, which is incredible. We knew that the strength of the Mariners coming into the season was going to be pitching. It hadn't looked like that so far this year, but we're starting to see the tables turn to where you're seeing a pretty mediocre offense the last week and really good pitching for the most part. Bullpen's been iffy, especially in that Sunday game against Houston. Really, I think the bigger story is the offense not getting it done. A lot of opportunities. I was on Baseball Reference doing some math here, and in the last 7 games, the Mariners have scored 21 runs and left 67 men on base. You're not going to win a lot of games if you keep leaving men on base. Game yesterday, Sunday in Houston, left 10 on. On Saturday, left 8 on. On the win on Friday, left 7 on, so better. But then against Lance McCullers, who's been struggling since coming back from an injury, you left 10 men on base, which is tied for the most this season. I also looked at some overall stats for the team in the last. I mean, May has not been good to the Mariners. The last 7 days, an OPS plus of 95, so below league average, a batting average of 230. Batting average is not as important of a stat as it used to be when we didn't have these other sabermetrics and things like that. We didn't have StatCast. We didn't have ways of tracking offensive efficiency in other ways. But still, 230, not good. And an on-base percentage of 318 with 28 RBIs. Now, in the last 2 weeks, that's even worse. So, an 84 OPS plus, so 16% worse than league average as far as on-base plus slugging, and a 216 batting average with less than a 300 on-base percentage. So not only is the team not getting on base as much, but when they are getting guys on base, they are leaving them on base. It's just concerning. I mentioned in a previous video that the pitching staff is not really in a place yet where we can afford to have like a sharp offensive regression. If we can like stay afloat and be league average, that's great. But in the last in the month of May, I think they've been well below league average. I mean, their OPS plus is 24th, which is below league average. You know, it's great to have George Kirby back. He didn't look great in his first outing, but who would? You know, he didn't have a spring training in Daikin Park where, you know, a pop fly to left field is a home run with the Crawford boxes. I expect he's going to be much better in the upcoming series against the Nationals. And I'm not worried at all about George Kirby. I think he's the least of the problem with that last series. Bryce Miller should be back soon. I heard he had a bit of a setback, so might not be true to that 15-day IL. And Gilbert should be back pretty soon as well. So the pitching will bounce back and we'll get reinforcements. My concern is that you have 3 of your 9 everyday players, basically, that you started the season with, in Ryan Bliss, Victor Robles, and Luke Raley. 3 very key guys to this team. Ben Williamson had a very hot start to his career. Leo Rivas was doing great, but you can't really expect to coast with that being your bottom of the order for too much longer. And I think you're really starting to see the warts. Another thing I wanted to talk about is some potential roster movement. Cole Young has been tearing it up in AAA. And Miles Mastrobuoni has really been playing a lot more than he should be, considering He had a home run in Houston. That's great. It was to the Crawford boxes, which I mentioned before are very easy to hit the ball out of. Impressive that it was opposite field, but regardless, Miles Masterboni should not be an everyday player, and right now he's playing like 4 out of 5 games. That's just not sustainable. Cole Young is a top prospect for a reason. He's been doing very well in the minors. For he is basically a younger, more talented version of Miles Masterboni. He's a high contact guy, but he's found some power recently. Got a great glove, plus speed. Not like O'Neal Cruz, Ellie De La Cruz level speed, but he can run, and he has the potential to fill in second base every day. Solano, I still think should be DFA'd any day now, but he had a decent series in Houston. Had a 2-hit game and an RBI single in Sunday's game. So I think he might have bought himself some more time, unfortunately. And from the looks of it, Tyler Locklear is about an average bat in AAA. As a first baseman, you don't have the potential to add a lot of value defensively. And if you're just going to be a league average bat, while it's still better than Donovan Solano, I think that the team should aim a little bit higher. I've heard some, trade talks circling around. Obviously, the Baltimore Orioles are not playing well. They're going to be sellers at the deadline. But it'd be nice if they were potentially sellers before then. Ryan O'Hearn's a guy that can play first. Ryan Mountcastle has been some mock trades in recent years with the Mariners. Rhys Hoskins has been thrown out there. The issue with him is club control and money owed. Yeah, so I mean, first base is a need with Ben Williamson struggling. Third base is a potential need. I think Cole Young is a temporary solution at second. And I've been hearing a lot of people that want Mitch Garver DFA'd. I think he's a good backup catcher. He's an overpaid backup catcher, but you can't do anything about his contract now. So by DFAing him, you're basically, it's a sunk cost at this point, his contract. So squeeze as much value as you can out of him. He's been decent, not been great. He's not lived up to the expectations we had of him when we signed him. But if you bring up Harry Ford right now and you cut bait on Garver, Harry Ford's going to be a backup catcher. And when you come into the league for the first time, the last thing you need is fewer reps. So he's going to be a backup catcher. He might DH from time to time. You're kind of stunting his growth as a player, and you're limiting his value because right now I think Harry Ford's best value is as a trade piece because there's plenty of teams where he would be their everyday guy. There's no potential for that with the Mariners. Cal signed an extension. He's here for the long haul. It's going to be a tough few weeks. The Nationals are like the lone soft spot in your schedule. And from there, you have the Twins who have been playing good. You host the Red Sox. You got to go see the Yankees. You have to go to Detroit, who've been very good in June. So those are just a few of the mini teams you're going to have to play. It kind of just can't keep going like this. Luke Raley might be back within a month, but where's the offense going to come from? We've seen Julio get hot recently, but he hasn't been like nuclear carrying the lineup hot. Get Polanco hitting better again, which he has sucked in May. Just absolutely been terrible. And I think it's probably injury related. He's only hitting from the left side again. You swept the Padres and you're thinking, wow, we might have an 8-2 road trip here, or 7-3 road trip. And then now the vibes are pretty low. The good news is the rest of the American League West has been kind of struggling, apart from the Angels, but I don't think they're the real deal. I will try to be better about recaps. Been very busy, and haven't really had a chance to do it. One other thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm sorry for being all over the place. The situational hitting has been pretty bad recently. Two occasions that come to mind that really stand out, and that's 3-0 count, green lights for players that should not have green lights. J.P. Crawford was having a good at bat, 3-0 count, rolled over on a, I think it was a changeup that the pitcher threw in 3-0. He rolled over. Um, if it's not Julio or Cal or Polo when he's hot, I don't want to see anybody swinging at 3-0. It's simple math, right? Yes, the 3-0 pitch is going to be down the plate, right? But the chances of that pitcher coming back and striking you out, or even throwing like a second or third strike after being down 3-0 are very low. Philosophy has been walks and homers. Taveras also had a situation like that. He hit a home run earlier in the game. Maybe he was feeling a little bit high on his own supply. I don't know. Some things that the Mariners were doing really well to start the season that they're not really doing as well. They're still getting on base, but they're not capitalizing, and it's costing them. Dan Wilson's made some questionable decisions with the bullpen, and that's affected games. But honestly, if you're not scoring enough runs, if you're scoring an average of 3 runs on the road trip per game, it's just not a recipe for success. So, like, you can point the finger at Dan all you want. Dan's gotten them to this point. And whether that's through, like, locker room chemistry or legitimate, situational knowledge, baseball knowledge, that's debatable. But you can't win scoring 3 runs unless you have, like, last year's Mariners pitching staff, in which case they would love to score 3 runs. One more thing, I'm actually kind of excited that Dan got thrown out of a game on Sunday. It's nice to see some fire. There have been a few times where there's been some really bad calls by umpires, and Dan just kind of goes out there, is like, "Oh, that's what you saw? Okay, that's fine," and just kind of rolls over. And it was good to see him, getting Laz Diaz's face and, like, scream at him. Need some more fire from Dan. Hopefully that inspired the guys, because they've just kind of looked dead. Yeah, thanks for watching. Look out for more content coming up, and go Mariners.